Joe Musso alongside Kyle Porter. Chad Mumm joining us, executive producer of Full Swing, coming to Netflix this February 15th. It's what everybody is talking about, and I mean, you were giving us gold off camera. We need a little bit of that right now here on camera as well. I mean, first and foremost, taking it in here at the PGA show. You said it's your first time out.
First time.
To sort of see the game, the intersection of technology, and what you just experienced, how do you sort of reconcile those two things?
I mean, this place is crazy, by the way. I would have dreamed of something like this my entire life as like a big golf nerd and just walking around like picking up clubs. And I was looking at tee markers. I'm like, what am I doing? How sick am I? Like, I'm like, look, that would be cool. But yeah, no, it's cool to see golf like healthy like this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our show's coming out at the perfect time. There's so much more participation in the game. You know, so many people picked it up during the 2020, during the pandemic. You know, obviously this year, I think a lot more people have been paying attention to pro golf because what's been going on. You know, we had something that's never happened in a pro sport happen, a schism in a new breakaway league happen, like in the middle of a season. People are processing it in real time. I think there's a general awareness that maybe there were some extra cameras there following along. I can tell you, there was.
So, thinking about sort of the history of this project, it's been going on for 4 years now, probably 5 maybe.
Yeah,
it goes back a long time. I think the reaction to just what's been out there so far, the trailer, was incredible. And the thing I was telling Joe is the way that I measure this stuff is my friends who are not in golf or don't follow it, how much are they talking about it? And it's been a lot, right?
Great.
You've probably experienced that as well.
Yeah.
Was your vision for it, did it match how big the hype has been so far?
I mean, hype it's such a tough thing. I mean, I'm so excited that people are excited about it, you know, and it's always hard to judge because you just want everyone to go watch it. Like, all that matters is that everybody goes and tunes in. I love that people are excited. I love that there's a lot of anticipation. I loved our trailer. I thought it was like, you know, it really captured like what we made, you know, in a really good way. And sometimes you like, you know, the marketing team gets to work, they make a teaser, and you're like, man, I wish our show was as good as that trailer. I know I've watched a lot of movies where I felt that way, by the way. In this case, it actually, I think it does live up to it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for everybody to see it. When we started this project, you know, I've been working on this for, you know, 5 or 6 years and really started picking up speed in earnest in 2019. And then just, like they say, there's an old Hollywood saying that, you know, to be successful, you don't just need like a great script and a great director and a great actor. It's like, you need momentum. And that's what this project got. And once it started to pick up speed, the majors came on board, more players started coming on board. All of a sudden, we're in the season, storylines start to happen. You know, sometimes the universe breaks in your direction. Putting aside, you know, the live piece of it, it's like we had 3 of the 4 major winners, like, agree to be in the show and then go and win a major, you know? And then at the end of the season, we had Rory McIlroy, he wins the FedEx Cup. Like, we got a lot of great breaks from the universe, and it just made the job of putting it all together, you know, so much fun. We had so much good stuff.
The stars did seem to align this season for you guys. You said it, you're a golf nerd. We are amongst the golf nerds right now. How'd your relationship with the game change from before this project to sort of the way you see it now?
I have so much more respect for the life of a professional golfer. You know, it's and you'll really see it in the show. I mean, living life on the road is tough. I mean, we spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time on the road, more time than I've ever spent on the road for any project. And, you know, I do a bunch of different kinds of shows. And even that's like a fraction of like actually playing the tour. And it was exhausting. You know, it was hard. I have young kids. It's hard being away from home. You know, it's kind of a traveling circus. You're seeing the same people, different town, you know, and I just have so much respect for those guys to be able to show up each week, to play all the practice rounds, play in the Pro-Am, get yourself ready, stay in shape, you know, eat, get enough sleep, then go and compete, like, where the margins for success are so razor thin. And between being number 1 in the world and being 150, it's like, we did the math, it's like 1 shot around, you know? I mean, you know, it just...
That's infuriating.
Yeah, it's infuriating. and this game can, like, slip away from you so quickly as well. And, like, just to be able to get up and go and do that and then move on to the next week, you know, even seeing the high after a win, it's like you show up the next day, it's Monday, it's like, okay, it's another week, everyone's like moved on, you know? That was really eye-opening and really compelling, and actually just reinforced our decision from the beginning. This was going to be a show about characters, you know? This wasn't going to be a show about events or about a major. We're not doing a documentary about the U.S. Open. We're here to tell the story of what it's like to be a competitor in that event. We're going to tell you what it's like to be a pro golfer in 2022. We're going to take you inside that world. We're going to show it to you in a way that no one's ever seen before.
So you said, we were talking off air, I think you said 770 hours of your own footage. Is that right?
Yeah, right before we started this interview, I called our post archive producer, Tim Duffy, and I was like, how much footage did we actually get? And his estimate was, it was about 770 hours of footage that we shot in 4K.
And then about another
5,000 or 6,000 hours of archive that we got which you did the math. That's about 34 days of actual, like 24-hour days of
Don't
footage.
trust my math, but
Yeah,
right
I don't know that I would. So how do you be? And this is a question that I had. I think I know the answer, but maybe other people have it as well. How do you even begin to cut that down to a 40-minute episode or a 50-minute episode? How does that start?
I mean, the good news is we went into it with a really good game plan. So the way we start these shows is we start by interviewing the players and getting to know them and really just starting to try and get a sense of what their story arc is going to be for a year. You know, and we sat down with them at Tiger's event, the Hero World Challenge in 2019, and in 2021, and we said, like, you know, walk us through your year. Who are the relationships that are important? What are the events that you look forward to? And then we use that to kind of sketch out an arc. And so we had at the beginning of the season kind of like up on a whiteboard in our office, like, okay, just some high-level storylines for Colin Morikawa, for Justin Thomas, for Jordan Spieth, for Joel Damon, for, you know, Brooks Koepka. And we sort of had an idea from who we thought they were and what arcs would be interesting for them. So it's not just like, look at it, let's watch 770 hours and just decide what would be a good show. You know, we were being targeted about how we, filmed with them and how we led into those stories. Yeah. And what we were really lucky was, like, those kind of a lot of those ideas that we had for where those stories would go is kind of where they ended up. You know? And some players were winners, others, didn't win. But the general arc of, like, okay, here's what we think the storyline's going to be, for the most part, held true. And you're just kind of hanging stuff onto that framework, and you're trying stuff out, and you're like, okay, that didn't work. All right, let's go shoot a little bit more. Hey, we don't know him well enough. Let's go spend some time with him off the golf course. Like, then you got to convince him to, like, let you hang out with him for a little while, And it was just piece by piece putting it together. And you kind of build it as you're flying it. But we had a blueprint that ended up being pretty accurate.
Every week I ask Kyle on Friday, or in this week's case, Thursday, what are you looking at on the cut line? I'm interested on your cut line because we talk about that much footage, and I want to know where the hardest point of the edit was for you. I don't want you to share too much from what we're going to see. What's something we're not going to see that still maybe lives with you that you would have loved to fit in? Because as creators, we're always looking for that extra 10, 20, 15 seconds.
Yeah. There was a few players that opted into the show that we've spent a lot of time with that didn't quite have enough of a season-long arc to get featured as much as we would like. And they're players that and players that, I want to do more with, and hopefully we will get to really do more. And I think that's the hardest part, where you get the trust with somebody, you get in their life, you shoot a lot of good stuff with them, but it's like, maybe we have so much gold, so many things happen this season that there just wasn't enough space for every single thing. And, it's hard to be able to, because it's good stuff, but you don't know exactly where it goes. And what we're trying to do with each episode is really tell, like, a big universal story. I think golf fans, we're here at a golf show. This is golf center of the world, basically. Like, there's going to be so much that you've never expect to see that you're going to get out of the show. You're going to see parts of Augusta National no one's ever seen before. You're going to see what it's like to wait around for a tee time, the final round at a major. Like, what do you do all morning? I always wondered that. It turns out you sit around, you look at your phone, and you watch the golf on TV, and you look at where the pins are. But the goal was to make a show that was, like, for people who maybe never even thought to think twice about professional golf. Who maybe fans of Drive to Survive, and they understand that immersive storytelling kind of sucks you in, and that has to be universal. It has to be character driven. It has to be, fathers and sons, and husbands and wives, and friends and enemies, and these big relatable human themes. Overcoming adversity, being like an underdog, or your expectations are that you're going to win every time, and how do you manage that? And so try to keep it really big and broad. And we had some great stuff that just didn't quite fit into like the big broad themes that we had to. Didn't make it into the show, but we want to do this for a long time. So I got high hopes that we'll be running it back again.
Who did you in the show, a person and a place, that your opinion of changed the most? Whether it doesn't, it could be good, it could be bad, but who's one person in the show that happened with you personally, and maybe one event or entity or thing that was also the case.
Instant answer: Brooks Koepka. Not at all what I expected. And
that's what I heard. I was talking to some people and I heard that. It's like,
it's mind blowing.
It's going to be crazy.
Not at all what you expect. And just to give you a sign, from the very beginning it was like that. So first off, I think he maybe was the only player that actually met me over Zoom during the pandemic to just hear it out himself, which I was like, tons of respect. That may not be true. I think it might be true actually. I think he was the only one who came on the Zoom and actually asked questions himself, which I love that. And then when we sat down for our first interview, we were at Tiger's event. You know, if you've been to the Hero World Challenge, it's kind of like there's a recording studio there, and of course everyone kind of comes over, and so that we were sitting there. Brooks was the only player who showed up without an agent, without an entourage. You know, not that these guys were rolling in like, you know, super deep, but, you know, their agents were there, and there were people there sort of minding him. Nope. Brooks drove himself over in a golf cart, sat down in the chair, he said, let's go. So, you know, I just wasn't expecting it, you know, and I think that he surprised me, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with how open he was.
Sort of going off of that unexpectedness, if I'm not mistaken, Rory was not on the initial list of players, and then we get that moment in the trailer with the clap and Rory sitting down and the goosebumps start going. How did that relationship come together?
So he and I sat down at the end of the season at a golf tournament. He was having breakfast. We'd been seeing him all year. You know, he knew that we had been asking about him being in the show, and, you know, his team has been really great to work with, but, you know, it was like not season one. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the year, you know, just was having breakfast, and I sat down with him, and, you know, I basically asked again and said, you know, we may never get another chance at this, and I think, you know, the world needs to hear what you have to say. And, you know, and he just sort of said yes, and was like, an hour later he had a mic on and was like walking around the locker room. We were like, oh my God, that's Rory, you know, and he's amazing. Like you talk about the cutting room floor, it was almost hardest with Rory, because everything he says is so thoughtful and so smart and so good. You're like, how do you
hear that, Kyle?
Like,
listen.
I think the same way about Kyle.
He's the main character in Kyle's story. That's why.
Well, I think the astonishing part about that is he's generationally good at golf, mm-hmm. and he's also a generationally good talker.
Yeah.
And explainer and thinker. And
totally.
you never get those things together. You get guys that are great thinkers and talkers and explainers, but they're not generationally good at golf.
Right.
Or the opposite.
Yep, totally.
DJ's the opposite, right? And with Rory, it's like, I don't understand how these two things merge together in the same person. And I think that's why there's some people write it off and they're like, I hate Rory or whatever. And it's like, you don't understand what you're like dealing with here.
Yeah.
And I think it's an extraordinary thing. And it's something that I'm grateful for in my career, has like intersected with what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so I totally understand where you're coming from, of like, I'm very glad for this person being in the show, because it's very meaningful to your project.
Totally. And he was like that. I mean, from the jump. First off, like, it seems like he doesn't do things half measured. So when he said yes, he was all in from that moment forward, and honestly gave us, you know, as much or more access as any other player, you know, from that point forward. And everything he says, as you said, he's just so thoughtful, and like the way that he expresses himself is just so, I don't know, he's really a good explainer. I think that's a great way to put it. And to pair that with what happened at the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup, and coming off of, you know, the Open at St. Andrews, it just, you know, you can't write a better ending. It's crazy how we got the breaks that we got. And that was really fun, and I'm glad you liked that moment in the teaser.
Oh, that was amazing stuff, and just a tidbit of what we're gonna get come February 15th. Let's zoom on for a second here, because creating here, it's very much a giving effort. How are you feeling as we're inside a month and processing all of the expectation and all of the excitement that people are, you know, sort of serving to you before we even see a frame?
I am just so grateful to be here. This project is like anything that's worth doing. You know, you just have to take it one step at a time and just push it forward. This is, I think I've said this many times, but this is a big passion project for me. And to have something that is your passion project turn out, you know, so good, it's something that you're so proud of and something that other people are excited about. It is like a dream come true. I know that's sort of trite, but like just being here at all, talking about a golf show that I got to be responsible for making is amazing. It's a dream come true. I remember being like, 13 years old, watching Tiger Woods, you know, waking up early to watch him playing in Japan, and like thinking to dream to be that moment that I would be sitting here on this stage with a mic in my hand talking about this project that brings professional golf to life for a whole new audience of people. It's just like, it's amazing. So yeah, I feel great about it. In many ways, like the hard part is over. Like we did it. It's done. It's finished. It's made. You know, we're setting our sights on what more we can do and next year. So you know, I'm just ready to run it back again. So
how and I ask this because I feel a lot of this. How emotionally dependent do you feel on people's reactions to it? Because I know that in my world, it's like, I write something, I think it was awesome, but then emotionally, I'm dependent on what other people think when I'm in a bad place. If I'm in a good place, I'm like, I don't really care because I believe that I put in the best effort I could. I did the very best I could, and what other people think doesn't matter. How have you tried to balance that?
Well, no one's seen it yet, so I haven't had the.
But they're about to.
I haven't had the hate mail yet. You know, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to react. I mean, I've had shows that people have loved. I've had shows that people have hated. I've had shows that no one noticed. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think you just have to focus on what you can control and just be proud of your work. I mean, we made the best possible show with the year that we had and the access that we had, and I'm super confident about that. There's nothing I would change about how it turned out.
Yeah.
And I am just grateful to get that opportunity, and I hope that everybody loves watching it as much as I love making it.
If you could change one outcome at an event from last year to better feed the narrative that you guys had, or not the narrative, but to like help along some of the storylines that you had kind of gotten at beforehand, what would it be?
I mean, dream scenario would have been Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth in the playoff at Southern Hills, just from a narrative perspective. No, I mean, I wouldn't really change anything. It was surreal, like being there at the Open Championship. You know, that vibe, the energy was so crazy on the back nine.
Yeah.
You know, when Cam Smith.
Kyle had an alternate ending to that one as well.
Well,
yeah, I figured. But
people that weren't there, it's hard to explain to people that weren't there, like the tidal wave of Rory love that week.
Yeah.
And then it was almost, I'm not even mad about the outcome because I think that it provided a fascinating, whatever happened, the story was about Rory.
Yeah.
That week.
That's right.
Because of the way people were reacting, and it almost provided more realism to Rory as a person because
sure.
he lost. And
yeah,
I thought,
no, it was like one of the most surreal experiences of just feeling the energy of an entire town sort of shift instantly. When Cam got up and down on 17, it was like, oh, you know, and it was like this, everyone recognizing it all at once. It was just a fascinating scene to be a part of.
It was very surreal.
But no, I mean, there was nothing that I would have changed. You know, Tiger winning the Masters. But good for
sign me on for that one.
But good for Scotty. You know, like Scotty is awesome. It was so fun
Yeah.
to you know get to know him a bit more and see inside his world. And no, I mean you can't look back and say you wish something would have gone differently because you know Rory's arc is totally different now. You know, and his triumph at the FedEx Cup, it's just like it hits differently.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, no, it was and being with Matt Fitzpatrick in the final round at the PGA. You know, like in the moment, we were like, we're going to get another major winner. Oh, my God. And then he doesn't.
Yeah.
And we're in the car with him driving home with our cameras rolling, and he's not talking and just looking straight forward. And we're like, this is like the lowest moment. You know, this guy was so close.
But it provides a contrast to
and then,
next month.
A month later, like we're standing there, you know, everyone's rushed the 18th green as he's just won the U.S. Open. And it's like, you know, I'm like, maybe I'm glad he didn't win the PGA.
Totally.
Like, this is the story. You can't write it. You know, this is where he won the U.S. Amateur. Like, he and his brother on the bag. Now his brother's grown up. He's over there on the, you know, outside the ropes, like, with his dad and his mom and his friend. And they're just, like, holding their chests, like, with anticipation as the ball flies through the air that he hit out of the bunker. And you're like, it's amazing. Like, I know exactly what happened. I've watched that episode, like, 1,000 times. I still get goosebumps.
Yeah.
Still get goosebumps.
I will likely watch that episode 1,000 times as well. We're so excited for it to come out. It's Full Swing coming on Netflix February 15. Chad, we can't thank you enough for stopping by. Wishing you the best of luck with the reception, and I'm sure gauging this room, it's going to be glowing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys.